Oh man, it's clear now.
All right, yo, it's Real Talk with your host, Morris Derry. Um, Today's show, we're going to talk about a few different things. Again, I want to thank my producer, Jack Tierney, for putting this together for us. So, I had a few questions that were sent in to me, so I think I might answer them first, and then we're going to talk about safe injection sites and things like that. So, one of the questions that was asked me off of the first episode was, what led you to end up in prison? What led me to end up in prison? So, actually, first time I ever got in trouble, I think I was 10 years old. I was making crank phone calls from the house phone, the old spin dial phones, and I guess somebody somehow got back to my great grandfather, and Middletown Police Station called the house or whatever. We had to go down to the police station, and I remember when they took me downstairs to like show me the cell. I was actually like intrigued by it in a sense, called me crazy, but it was like actually pretty cool looking. But I felt like I had this cop or whoever it was at the time like telling me this is where you're gonna end up. This is what you get. Almost like they was trying to convince me like this is where I was gonna end up. You know what I mean? So that kind of like started me being really kind of like bad to where the law was involved. But I think once I got into junior high school, I think that kind of like changed my life. Like I don't know, it was the first day or the first month I was in high school. I got in a fight with a kid who called me the N word. I got suspended for 10 days. So and every time I got in trouble, I felt like either it was the principals or whatever were like, you're gonna end up in jail. This is gonna happen to you. It's like they were convincing me that I was gonna end up in jail. If that, you know what I mean, in a sense, not like, yeah, they were saying if you don't stop doing this, you're gonna end up in jail. But I don't know, I don't call me weird, but it felt like I was being convinced I was gonna be in jail. First time I ever got locked up as a juvenile, I burglarized the Langhorne Hotel. I used to do dishes in there and went back in there and stole from them and whatever. And I got put on juvenile probation for it. And once it's true that once you're in the system, like you're in, And I went to Edison and things like that. So it kind of like started my whole journey. Man, I think I was 13 or 14. My whole journey. Like I didn't get off parole or probation until I was 31. Yeah, 31. I'm 44 now. So, but that started my journey, and then I just kept getting in trouble, man. Like, and my thing was stealing. I just kept stealing. You know what I mean? Whatever. But it's kind of weird because remember, in the last show I talked about going to different friends' house and seeing how they had it, and then seeing how I had it. That kind of like made me think like, oh, well, I need to get it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get it how they have it. I felt like God blessed this house, that house, skipped over my house, this house, that house. You know what I mean? I couldn't figure it out, so I used to say, by any means necessary, I'm gonna get. And that, and living in that, poverty or whatever, low income, whatever you want to call it, being poor, kind of like sparked my, I don't know. And then, like I was saying, like being around bad male influences. Like my mom's first husband was bad. I remember him taking us to a grocery store, and I'm walking down an aisle looking for him, and I see this man stuffing meat down his pants. You know what I mean? So, and this is supposed to be a role model or a father figure in my life. So it's like, is that how I'm supposed to get it? You know what I mean? So that started in a sense too. But when you, and then seeing that different people in my life at the time were just doing things that just weren't right. So I kind of like fell into it. So all kind of different things led me to go to prison. I remember just as a teenager, just trying to figure it out, and just like I felt like I just kept getting it wrong. And like I had a principal in the Chamonix Junior High School who like yelled at me so bad and told me that I was just gonna never be nothing, and I ended up believing him. Um, Seems like every time I did get arrested as a juvenile, I always got arrested by this one detective in Middletown, Detective Kemmer, and he was the only like true father figure in my life. Would you say? Because every time I got arrested or in trouble, here this detective comes. You know what I mean? And though he was arrested me for crimes committed, he was kind of like a father figure. And then I dealt with so many different things that I think played a part in it. Um, I was at a party, as a teenager, and I'm making out with this girl, and her brothers find out, and then she pulls the old race card on me. Now I'm sitting in jail for inappropriate, indecent assault was called at the time. I mean, I ended up winning that case in court, but still, you know what I mean. So it's like I kind of let down people at the same time. I felt like I was being let down. So a lot of different things led up to me going to prison. Um, when I turned 18, I had stole a car, and I had this high speed chase in Langhorne Borough, like Langhorne Borough. So I'm having this high speed chase. Forget the cop's name. I don't even know if he's still a cop. But I had a high speed chase in Langhorne, and drove all through like Wood Services. And I remember I got away, got home. I was sitting on my front. I lived right across the street from the police station. I'm sitting there, and the same cop drove by. So I'm thinking like, all right, maybe he didn't know it was me. The next day in school is when they came, and they arrested me. So I was thinking I was going to like Edison, and nah, they took me to Bucks County Prison. So once I got into Bucks County Prison, I guess to me was it. That was like kind of like it for me in the sense of I guess this is where I belong. This is my destiny. This is what my life is going to be about. And I started just adapting to and accepting that the fact that I was going to be a thug or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? A troublemaker, whatever. And I got out. I got out of jail enough time to graduate high school. I graduated in 1992 from the Chamonix. But graduating high school was like, all right, I'm already 18. I already got a record. What am I going to do? So I just adapted to being that bad kid, that bad person. And I just kept on doing the same old things, whether it be stealing, selling drugs, whatever it may be. I just kept doing it. And then I just kept going to jail, man. And then I was wanted. And they had me on this house arrest thing. I think I was 19, and I couldn't take it no more, man. Like having to come outside and answer to these cops all the time. So I left. I was on probation, and I hopped a plane to Puerto Rico. And nobody knew I was down Puerto Rico for a long time. I remember calling home. My brother answered the phone. He's like, "Where you at?" And I'm like, "I'm in Puerto Rico." It's like, "Puerto Rico? What you doing now, Puerto Rico?" Like all these cops are looking for you. But I left. And being down there, I was down there for a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I kind of like remade a life for myself. When I talk about homelessness too, when I went to Puerto Rico, the girl I was supposed to meet down there and stay with kind of gave me the wrong address. So I ended up staying at the old San Juan bus depot for a week until we figured it out. And it took me walking through old San Juan and just keep asking people and trying to talk to people about this address to try to figure out this address I had. And then I ended up finding the right address. So I slept on a freaking chair or bench in Puerto Rico for a week. So and I had saying I went down there with no money. And the money I did have in my pocket, using all of it. So I had to struggle with that down there too. But anyway, I came back from Puerto Rico, like to visit, you know, and when I got back, it was like January, say, you know what I mean? I committed like all these crimes to get money. Got caught. I was staying in one of the hotels on Route 1 in Ben Sound. Again, I had another high speed chase through Ben Sound, whatever. And then I'm getting arrested, And this time I knew it was bad, you know. I'm looking at like 80 some charges of theft, receiving stolen property, auto theft, weird, just a lot of crimes, and not all the crimes that I do, but they gave it to me all. And you know the craziest thing about it? When I got arrested, that same detective was there, that detective Kemmer. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, I don't know. I knew, and I guess I was ready. My life was just ready for it. So I ended up going to jail, man, and I went to court and all that, and I got sentenced 5 to 10 years in the state penitentiary. You know, so that is could probably be a whole show in itself. That experience of being upstate and being away from your family. I was sentenced to Albion State Penitentiary, which is over by Erie, Pennsylvania. So it's like what 8 hour ride. It was like 10 hour ride on the bus, but that experience, that 5.5 years, it was life changing, but at the same time, it was didn't stop me from getting in trouble, going to jail. You know what I mean? Um, but at the same time, it's like, again, that's when I created my mentorship program. That's when I knew that I had to. This is it. This is it for me. Anything after this is gonna be too much time, in a sense. You know what I mean? But yeah, so what led me just to go to jail was just bad guidance and bad choices, bad decisions. And it's a blessing that I survived it. It's a blessing that I did experience it, but at the same time, it changes you. You know what I mean? I still do things. I've been out of jail since 2000, and I still do things that's institutionalized related. You know what I mean? So I don't want anybody going to prison, but I'll definitely have to talk about it more in detail another time with how prison was. But seeing some things in there. I'm in jail for stealing, and I'm sitting down having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with murderers, rapists, and in 5 years, I'm like, having a life in a sense, with these different people. I'm interacting with so many different people, again, murderers, people are doing life. People are never coming home. Rapists, child molesters, just petty crime, drug dealers, and I am in the yard playing handball and basketball, or I'm having lunch, dinner with them. So it's kind of tough to deal with. And then you're going home, and a lot of people are not. So prison life in itself, I'll definitely have to get deeper in that another time. But all kind of different things led me up to jail. But I wouldn't say necessarily drugs led me to jail, because I handled that when I was a teenager. So it was just more being greedy, being just being trying to live up to an image that I feel like I necessarily create. I feel like my own society created for me, things by what I saw. So to answer that question, but I'll definitely touch that question more. But another question was, how do I feel about medication treatment, Suboxone, and things like that? I don't know if you want to chime in on this, but for me, I think that it's like, I'm on the fence with it, because I think sometimes it could be, if it's, I don't know, because I think you're feeding addiction with addiction. You know what I mean? Suboxone. What's the other one?
Methadone.
Methadone. It's like you're feeding addiction with addiction to me.
Well, the thing is that there's a drug out there now, naltrexone or Vivitrol, whatever you want to call it. One's an injection, one's a pill form, that are non-addictive, that do the same thing that Suboxone and or methadone do. So what is the purpose of being on a medication that you become addicted to?
Right.
Again.
Right. Because I know hundreds of people who have to try to get off of the Suboxone.
And it's worse than getting off the heroin.
Exactly. That's, from what people told me too. So I'm against it. Like I went to, I think at Drexel, and they were talking about the medication that you said. And I even raised my hand and asked a question like, well, how do you get people off of this medication that you guys are talking about? And the lady was saying how they would weed people off. And I was like, well, kind of ain't that like, if you have to weed somebody off of something, that means they're addicted, kind of, right? And, they kind of disagree, but that's what I thought it was like, by hearing what people were saying, that I related to the Suboxone, you know what I mean? So I'm totally against, to answer that question, I think I'm totally against it. I think, me personally, I think once you go through treatment, whether it be rehab, whatever, detox rehab, to get that kickstart, I think that you should at least try, to try to do it without.
Yeah, I think if somebody's a chronic relapser, I'd rather see them on Subutex.
Right.
I'm totally against methadone, but Suboxone or Subutex, I'd rather see them on that than dead. But yeah. I think that if there's been failed attempts with Vivitrol, then if it's their 40th treatment in 2 or 3 years, then maybe there is a place for it. But it can be done properly within a 9-month span where they dose up and then dose down and they're off of it. It's when you have doctors that are prescribing it for money that, people are on it 2, 3, 4 years. Or a pregnant woman has to be on something. So the medication has to exist. If she's 2 months pregnant and finds out, that she's pregnant and she is using a heroin actively, then she has to be on Subutex because it would kill the baby if she wasn't. So there is a need. It's just that when it's done properly, compare methadone, I don't see a need for methadone at all. But Subutex, when it's done in like that 9-month to a year span, after many failed attempts at doing it the other way, I would rather see somebody on it than dead. But I don't think that it should be an initial treatment, and I don't think it should be a 3rd, 4th, or 5th try treatment. Right. Because so many people are dying on Suboxone because then they're using Xanax or alcohol or something else that mixes with it, and then they overdose on that because they already have something else in their system, or they try to trick the Suboxone or Subutex or methadone and use on top of it, which is also a problem with Vivitrol. But I mean, there's millions of people that have succeeded abstinent-based out there.
Right.
So.
And I just think that's, for me, I just feel like that's I don't know, because I talked to people who said that, the Suboxone and that stuff helps them. You know what I mean? But at the same time, again, it's like, all right, well, when, you don't need this, so when you're ready to get off of it, you're still going to be addicted to it.
And you're going to go through.
And your withdrawal is going to be, and from what I hear, the withdrawal from Suboxone, that stuff is worse than the heroin withdrawal. So to answer that question, it's just like, I think like I'm totally just against it, So that was the only 2 questions I got from last week. You know what I mean? But I don't know. But so why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Krysten Howard.
There you go. She's my co-host for the day. I just answered a few questions that were sent to me. She wasn't here last week, so I just wanted to answer those questions real quick. But I'm glad she's here. We're definitely gonna talk about a few things. So the topic of tonight's show is safe injection sites. Me and you've talked. We're kind of on the same page of it. You know what I mean? Which is I'm totally against it. But I do want to give facts about it, what I researched. So it's not really, I didn't want to give too many facts. Anybody can Google, safe injection sites and find the same information I did. But what I took from it was different names that they're known as: the supervised injection facilities, safer injection facilities, drug consumption facilities, fixed rooms, all the kind of different names, safe injection sites, whatever. They're designed to reduce nuisance from public drug use and provide hygienic and stress-free environments in which individuals are able to consume illicit recreational drugs intravenously. Place where people shoot up. They provide sterile needles, information about drug use, treatment referrals, medical staff on board, and other services. So they do offer some good things, that people, that if they use them, they can go to. I know that Sydney in Australia started in the 1990s. New York had one in 1980, but they weren't, I guess, regulated. They weren't considered safe, but they had them. The Netherlands had started theirs in the 1970s, and that was provided by a church, St. Paul's Church, right? And it was more to combat HIV. So most of these safe injection sites, from what I researched, were to combat the HIV epidemic and crisis. You know what I mean? People sharing needles and things like that. So it was more designed for that purpose. Harm reduction, yes, I get it. Germany, Spain, Norway, Australia, and Canada have them. Again, if people want to research it, go online. I typed in safe injection sites, and I got all these different things about it. But as I did research it, again, like I'm on the fence. I get on the fence thing where I give two sides of it. Yeah, they offer a lot of good services. You know what I mean? But like the last show, me and Jack were talking about, still the person needs to want help. So until somebody wants help, you know what I mean, I think you're enabling them. You're giving them a place to go shoot up. You know what I'm saying? There's organizations that drive around and give out clean needles and do the shared needles things. You know what I mean? If it was a place that people could just go just to get clean needles or something, then I'll be all for it. But there's a lot of people in Kensington, in the area where they want to put it, right? So there's a lot of people down there fighting this epidemic, right? And I mentioned it before, like a couple weeks ago, it was like 81 people OD'd. They didn't die, but they OD'd, bad batch heroin. So if they said a safe injection site that can house 50 people, say, right? What if there's a bad batch that night? You got 50 ODs going on. You know what I'm saying?
Well, from what I understand, and I'm not necessarily for them, I'm not against them either. I'm just like, I don't really have an opinion. I do see the harm reduction of like the HIV spread and hepatitis C. Mm-hmm. I can see that side of it, but I also don't understand why Kensington is trying to put a safe injection site in while they're trying to gentrify the area. It doesn't really make sense to me, location wise. They're moving out all the tent cities and cleaning out the bridges, but then they're going to bring in a safe injection site, which is just going to bring a different population. So like that part doesn't make sense, and it hasn't necessarily been successful in Canada. I haven't read about the other places, and this is a topic that I think if you're educated on it, I have no problem speaking with somebody about it. And even if we don't have the same opinion, it's people that aren't educated that think that it's like, oh, well, you don't necessarily agree with it, so you just think it's bad. Well, okay, or you think it's good. Even thinking it's good, I think it's important, how you did the research, to do the research and to see what the facts are and see what happened. And like, did it help with HIV? It did, so that's kind of where I go, back and forth about it. But it also, like, it turned into like 125 overdoses 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And that has now made its way up to Northeast Pennsylvania, that same batch of heroin. Right. So in a much smaller area, they had 18 fatal overdoses last weekend. So do they have enough staff to Narcan all these people?
That's exactly.
And when somebody needs to be Narcaned in a safe injection site, do they have to go to the hospital? Because the law says that they don't have to go to the hospital, but does that change when they step into a safe injection site? Right. So I think there's like a lot of questions still out there, and who, you and I spoke about this. I do believe that the tax-paying people of Kensington deserve their streets back.
Right.
I also believe that the homeless people need a place to go.
Right.
So again, it's a topic I'm on the fence about. But would you want to live next door to a safe injection site?
Right.
So where do you put it that it's not next door to somebody raising their family?
Right. I know that I did the research too when it comes to Philadelphia, and somebody, I know the mayor wants it, but there's people, I guess, who he answered to don't want it. To me, doing the research, they do have good quality. If somebody good can go into the safe injection site and get help, if one person does it, they're going to say it worked. You know what I mean? I just think that you really can only help people who have insurance. You know what I mean? Or even if they get government insurance, right, then they have to go get assessment, right? There's other things they have to do. So what service are they going to offer people in that period of time? When they said they were closing the encampment sites, when they started closing encampment sites, they said they were offering people waiting the treatment. Right? That's what they told everybody in the news. Well, when I go down there and talk to these same people, that's not necessarily true.
I think it's like I know the NASW was down there offering people, treatment. So, I think
is that ran by the city?
No, the National Association of Social Workers.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a Philadelphia chapter. I think I myself am a person that identifies as in recovery, and I don't think that a safe injection site or a social worker or a pastor or a priest or a nun or my children could have stopped me from using until I wanted to stop using. They didn't.
Right.
They didn't. I walked right over my children to continue to use until I wanted to get clean. And, right before here, I was with my kid getting her ears pierced, and I just purchased a home, there's things, but it's because I wanted to get clean. It has nothing to do with what anybody else wanted for me. I had to want to do it myself.
Right.
And that's where I think the safe injection sites are controversial, because if they do help one person, then it did work, but at what risk to other people?
Exactly. Yeah, that's where I do think it's more enabling, until somebody wants help, yeah, we're not, I was saying last time, until people want help, well, we're not supposed to care. No, I care, but the safe injection sites, I definitely don't think they're the answer or the solution. I definitely don't think they're right for Kensington. You know what I mean? I don't, if it was, I just think there's too many people out there. So if you've been out with me, so, we deal with the homelessness and things like that, but there's a lot of people. So now, if all these people say, all right, well, I want to use this place, again, the area where you're going to have a safe injection site is going to be consumed with people outside of these safe injection sites. You know what I mean? People are going to be, or might not be able to get into these safe injection sites. You know what I mean? So I just think that personally it's going to cause more of a epidemic, to be honest with you. I think it'll get worse, than what it already is by doing that. Because you got new users every day. You're getting new users every day. I don't know why, but people are becoming addicted every day. So these safe injection sites are going to be flooded. And as a parent, I don't want that to be the place I find my kid. Again, I don't want to find my kid no alley, no gutter, no, abandoned building. I don't want to find my kid dead at all. But, so again, it's a tough subject. It's always going to be a controversial subject, but for Philadelphia, I just really don't think safe injection sites are the answer. I'd rather go with being able to force people into treatment than that.
And letting them get a clear mind for a couple days.
You know what I mean? I touched base like that in the last show. We can end the epidemic tomorrow if we were able to force people in treatment. Especially running, those who run programs and parents and things like that. If I feel like my loved one's gonna harm themselves, I should be able to say, you know, you need to go to treatment, and they should be able to come get them treatment, whether they have insurance or not. 302, you know, if somebody's crazy and I start saying I'm gonna kill myself, threaten myself, and all that stuff, you can 302 me. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, I had to do that with a few people, and it seemed like it was more easy to 302 somebody than to get people for treatment for substance abuse. When I feel like it's all goes together.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I wonder, the city of Philadelphia school districts are struggling so badly, and the next generation is suffering from it. So where is this money coming from?
I said before, they're going to raise the soda prices more.
The soda prices.
The candy prices are going to go up again. But they need to do something, even with the safe injection sites. Like, how are they going to pay for it?
That's what I'm saying.
Like taxpayers got to pay for it, right?
Because I think one thing everybody does agree on the topic of addiction is that education is definitely the key. You know, educating this next generation. And I'm not saying that the generation that we're in now is lost at all. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, like, I have an 18-year-old daughter and I have a 7-year-old daughter, and educating them on what can happen and will happen to them, I think, is very important. So these children in the Philadelphia school district, you know, especially the ones that fall into that impoverished area, like, where, like, they can't even afford to keep their schools open. So where is this money being allocated from? Is it federal funds? Is it state funds? Is it city funds? Like, what is it? And come out and say, like, what is it?
Right.
Because I'm all about harm reduction.
Right.
I do think that, like, if somebody gets clean or sober, whatever they want to call it, and they find out that they have HIV, that can be devastating news. So I understand, like, the concept. I really do. I just don't think it's the answer.
Right.
And a lot of people don't agree with me.
Right.
And that's okay, too.
But what is the answer? So, you know what I mean? What is the answer to it? There's, you know, we deal with this every day. So what could be the answer to the epidemic? You know, me personally, I'm sticking with, you know, mandatory treatment. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, while we wait for people to say, hey, I want help, we're supposed to still care. You know what I mean? That's why I go out there. You know what I mean? That's why we do the things that we do in these different organizations. But I feel like we have to say, hey, you know, you need to go to treatment and be able to put our kids in treatment. You know how many moms and parents that I talk to a week that are just lost about their kid, don't know what to do. You know, they've been in and out of rehab, or they haven't been to rehab yet, and they don't know what to do. And it's like, you know, I just wish I could be like 303, I might call it. That's my new number, 303. Like, it's 303 them. Get them into treatment, you know, or insurance is like, you know, like, and again, when you go back to the safe injection sites, when it comes to somebody saying, hey, Mr. Safe Injection guy, I need, you know, I want help, but I have no insurance. You know what I mean? I get that all the time, and I go on the phone, I call, you know, this place, that place, they got to go here, you know, that's time consuming. I believe people with active addiction can't wait. I had a girl, and I mentioned before, like, who called me, whose friend, but she was trying to get a friend into a detox, and they had no beds, and the friend went back out. Or she said, buy me drugs until I can go.
Yeah, and that's where it gets controversial about heroin, especially because heroin detox is not going to kill somebody. Right. So if they really did want to be clean, you know, that's where it gets, like, really, really sticky. And you have to have an address to get state insurance. And most of the people in Kensington aren't Philadelphia residents.
Thank you.
So, you know, there's all kind. I mean, that, you know, if some people say that, like, what you do, or, you know, what we've done together is, and feeding homeless people and addicts is enabling them too, and clothing them is enabling them too.
Right.
You know, like, there's a lot of, so
yes.
It's like, I mean, everybody's going to have their opinion, and nobody is right. You know, it's just respecting each other's opinions and trying to come up with a solution rather than creating more of a problem.
I used to get that a lot when I first started this. Like, people would say, you feeding the homeless, clothing them, and, you know, it was enabling. You know what I mean? I get it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I care. You know, we have to care. You know, again, I used to be able to walk right past a homeless person, not a care in the world. You know, now I just can't. It's just
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit different thinking like I want that person to be warm and have something in their stomach rather than I want them to be able to shoot up.
right,
You know, they're two very different things. And it comes back to like, would you buy an addict drugs? Would you keep them well, as they say?
right,
Like, I wouldn't, because if they got a bad batch, one, you're done.
right.
And two, is it's illegal to have heroin on you. So how do you get around that at a safe injection site? What is that law? And why is that different than somebody who, gets possession with personal use? It's the same thing.
Right.
Distribution's a little bit different, but personal use is the same thing. And and the numbers for distribution is really nothing when you're talking to somebody who's been using for 2 or 3 years. They could have 3 bundles on them on a really good day.
Yeah, I wonder that. I'm glad you brought that up because I wonder that, like, how heroin is illegal to have on you. So how are you walking up into a safe injection site with bags of heroin on you and legally allowed to shoot up there? So,
And is there going to be drug dealers a block away?
yeah,
Probably.
right.
Which
Or
is
right
why
out- or right outside.
Yeah, which is why somebody wouldn't want it next door to their house.
You know, like when you go by, 10 cities down there, up the streets, or residents, So the argument about cleaning up under the bridges, I was all with. I was all for, like, clean up on the bridges. They're offering people help. Obviously not everybody's gonna take help. You know what I mean? But then, a week later you go down there and the encampments are still there. They cleaned them up. It was all in the news, so they must have cleaned them up. But it's that much a reality that, you're in a sense kind of like taking people's homes. Because there's people who literally live out there, and
I know, but you're taking those residents' homes too.
no, yeah, I agree. I agree. Like, I wouldn't want to walk out my house and look down the street and see that at all myself.
I think about my daughter having to walk to school through it because
Right.
that's what got me. That was the thing that got me was, when I was down there and there was little girls like walking through the encampment and like their parents, like, then people can say, well, their parents should be able to get them childcare. Well, maybe they can't afford it.
Right.
And they're going to work at 6 a.m. because they're trying to keep a roof over their kid's head. Like, there's such a controversial argument there. And like, people that argue and say like, I'm a bad person because I agree that the city should clean it up. Like, okay, well then let those tents come to your yard up here in the suburbs.
Well, I tell people this. I tell people this. I just said this the other day too. I said the difference between Kensington and the counties, whatever county you want to pick, is that up here it's more out of sight, out of mind. Right? It's here, but you don't normally see it.
Yeah, they're
I
in
said
the woods.
think of Bucks County having a blanket on them. If you rip that blanket off, it's gonna look just like Kensington. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be more in your homes, in your kid's bedroom, in the, whatever, in the car, whatever, the woods. You know what I mean? But it's no different than down there. And like you said earlier, and I said before, most of the people in Kensington are not from Philadelphia. You know what I mean? So put a safe injection site in Langhorne. You know what I mean? Put a meth is big up here. Put a clinic out here for that. You know what I mean? So, but when you say that or go that route, oh no, it's not that big and bad in Bucks County as in Philly.
Yes, it is.
You crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's it's no different. It's really no different than Philadelphia.
Yeah, when we were down under the convention center, there was a guy that was a doctor.
Exactly. There's people get mad when I talk about Philly a lot and not Bucks County, and I say, it's not that obviously I do a lot of stuff in Bucks County, but it's like, again, it's out of sight, out of mind type of thing. Like, you'll see your homeless people out front of your stores, your 7-Elevens, your gas stations like that. You'll see little tents up here and there, but in Kensington or Center City, it's like right in your face. It's literally right there. And though it is up here, again, it's more hidden until we can rip that blanket, so to speak, off of it and expose the truth. You know what I mean? Which I'm planning on doing. You know, giving people a what if, you know, Yardley was Kensington. You know, what if Newtown was Kensington? You know, a project I'm working on. So, you know what I mean? To give people that that same experience that the families in those areas deal with. Even in Center City, you know, business owners, you come to open your business and, you know, unfortunately there's homeless people sleeping and living in front of your business. You know what I mean? And you got to run a business. So I am definitely sympathetic to the residents in Kensington and the business owners in Center City and even the residents and business owners up in the counties, but we can't just stop caring about the people that are out there. I mean, I'm not going to stop caring. And whether I expose it in Kensington, Center City, or in the woods up here, to me, it's more about exposing it, getting the education out there, spreading that awareness, and trying to get people involved in those things. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's difficult. As difficult it is to I think it's difficult for people to care. You know, they got their own issues. You know, trust me, I got my own issues to worry about in life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I got a lot of stuff going on that I need to worry about, but I'm not gonna, you know, just not care. And I think people get caught up in the stigmatizing things and debating, even like the safe injection sites. You know, I debate it. You know, I'll debate all day, but I'm still focused on, you know, changing lives while I'm battling or while I'm arguing my opinion on safe injection sites.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference because you respect the other person's opinion. Like when people are out there calling other people stupid or,
right.
you know, uneducated or whatever else, you know, when you don't agree with their opinion, I think that's when things get controversial more than anything. And you're also breaking the cycle here. Like you have a daughter and you're raising her, so you're breaking your family's your family cycle of like no father. You know, I was in foster care. You know, my biological father did 20 years. But I was adopted by a very strong Sicilian family, and you know, I ended up in the grips of addiction, and my family cut me off, and you know, that was enough to kind of wake me up. You know, I didn't end up in Kensington for very long, but I ended up there, you know, and it's really, I don't know how I feel about forcing people into treatment because I really think it's an inside job, and then it turns into something else. But
no, no, I agree. You know, definitely, but you know, what's it gonna take when it comes to that? Though
I think there's people that have a death wish that use to die, and I think that that's very different than somebody, you know, who is down in Kensington just using to use. You know, when you're using to die, then you should probably be forced into treatment and try to clear your mind. When you're using because you like to get high, and I've heard there's people have told me I like living down here. I like it here.
Yeah,
I'm fine here.
Yeah, I get that too.
And then you're like, okay, well, when you're not fine anymore, call me.
Yeah, that's believe it or not, like
they have cell phones. Like they have cell phones. They have cigarettes. Like those people that are telling you they're fine, they are fine. They're, you know, that's not. There's a very different line down there of like desperation and ignorance, you know.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of people down there who want to be down there, enjoy. That's their lifestyle. You know, that's what they want to do. There's a lot of times when I go down there and I'm looking for people, and I find people, and they don't want the people who sent me down there knowing that whether they're okay or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so, you know, being an organization, you know, you have that confidentiality and that trust. That I try to keep my trust with the people I deal with. You know, so it's hard when somebody says to me, "Morris, did you see my loved one?" And I'm like, "No," but you know, sometimes I did, or I'll tell them the truth, like they don't want contact. You know, and it's hard because, you know, who do I get that, you know, respect or confidentiality to them or the addict suffering. You know, that's where I personally deal with, you know what I mean? And again, like just a couple days ago, or just, in fact, yesterday, I got a message for me to look for somebody's son, and, I have to message them like, okay, but if I find them and they don't want contact, I got to let you know that, all right, well, I just want to know if they're okay.
I mean, they're not okay. They're in Kensington.
They're not okay if they're missing and they're in, believed to be in Kensington or wherever. It's not just Kensington. It's Camden, Trenton.
Camden's bad.
Camden is actually really bad, and though Philly has their own issues with it, Camden's right across the bridge. So, Camden's dealing with the homelessness, this heroin epidemic, just like Philadelphia's. Trenton's dealing with it. You know what I mean? So, and other parts of the country's dealing with it. So, Kensington is just a small piece of the bigger pie, of what's really going on. And until our higher uppers, government, whoever, I won't talk about the president too much, but, you know what I'm saying? But until these people do something, people talk about the laws. When you talk about gun violence, you talk about racism, you talk about anything going on, it's always about, you got to pass this law, you got to pass a laws. Our country just made a bunch of laws, right? But what law is there, or what got to get passed to save people? I don't understand why it takes so long for legislation, whatever the word's called, or these higher.
Oh, it can take 10 years to pass a law.
Exactly. So why did it take this long to pass a law for people who are dying every day?
I don't know. There's other countries that heroin isn't illegal and they don't have an epidemic. So, like, you can argue that too. Like, should we have all these laws? Chicago has the strictest gun laws in the country and the highest gun violence. Yeah. So there is something to be said for less government interaction. But then, like, it's when the funds get allocated and it gets messy, it gets sticky, and.
But while waiting for laws to pass, people are dying, and they're dying in rates that are just crazy. To have one weekend, 81 people OD from a bad batch of heroin, and we're Philadelphia, small piece of that pie.
There was 3 of them right here in Huonville, Pendel.
Exactly. So think of like 81 people in Philadelphia, but then you got all these other cities.
Ohio's the worst. Up in Connecticut, New Hampshire, up that way. It's really bad up there. So the whole epidemic itself is just, we have to. I know you disagree, but I really truly believe that we should be able to 302 somebody when it comes to fighting this addiction, because I truly believe that you have to include mental health in all of it, whether it's homelessness, whether it's addiction, whether it's domestic violence, even cancer. When you're battling these things, like, mental health is not talked about enough, and linking them. To me, like, me and Jack were talking last 2 weeks ago. Like, to me, I believe to sit under a bridge, homelessness, or being homeless on a bridge, or being in Kensington, or being in the woods, or wherever it is, I think you're dealing with something more than just substance abuse and homelessness. Agree or disagree, I just really do think, like, when we was homeless and lived in the motel, I think it was probably more mental on my mom than it was just being homeless. She has 6 kids. She has three of her kids with her living in a hotel. So I can imagine what my mom was going through. And then you look at these people out here, and I think about my mom, especially when I see, older ladies. I saw a lady the other day that looked like one of my school teachers, And I remember telling Dave, who was with me doing pizzas, I was like, yo, that looks it was on Facebook.
Yeah, on my video, I was like, yeah, I look like a school teacher, like could be your mom. You know what I mean? Like, this older white lady who just felt to me she looked out of place,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to know her story. Like, you know, I want to know her story because being out there, being in Kensington and being in Center City, you know, and talking to people, you get these stories, you know, whether it's true or not. But the stories that people tell you how they ended up there, you most of the time you're like, what? Like, wait a minute, you had, you know, some people they had the world in their hands, and drugs put them in Philadelphia. You know, I met so many people that weren't even from this area, weren't even from this state, but it came to Philadelphia because of the drugs.
Yeah.
Now that should tell you a lot about our city. You know what I mean? But it's reality for a lot of people. One dude took a bus. He told me he took a bus from like Iowa, you know, to come to the east, more to the East Coast, and he ended up in Philly. You know, so you know, it's just it definitely gets a little crazy, but I'm definitely gonna safe injection sites or all that stuff is definitely gonna be talked about more in future shows and things like that, because I think you got to keep the conversation going. Like you said, like education is must in here. You know, we must educate our kids. And again, my daughter's only, you know, 2.5 years old and can barely understand things that come out of my mouth, but I'm still in her face about it. Like, you know what I mean? Which some people think is wrong, but whatever. But when it comes to just dealing with that, we just gotta stay focused, stay educated, keep our kids educated, keep our loved ones educated, not just our kids, you know, and our family. Some people gotta educate their own parents who are already adults, you know what I mean? Because this epidemic and this heroin doesn't care who you are.
I think breaking the silence is really big, you know, because if you looked in on my family, you would never think, you know, that one person died from a heroin overdose and somebody else is in recovery, because there's I'm the only divorce, you know, I'm remarried now, but I'm the only divorce in my entire family.
Wow.
Entire, like, up through great grandparents all the way down.
Wow.
I'm the only divorce. I was the only one that had a child out of wedlock. I was the only teen pregnancy. You know, it has nothing to do with, you know, once I was adopted, how I was raised. You know, my family, I come from a white picket fence family, you know, and my adopted father passed away when I was 12, and the walls came crumbling, and, you know, it went really bad from there. You know, I had a stepdad who was an alcoholic and abusive towards my mother, and it just changed everything, all my viewpoints on life.
Wow.
And I don't blame anybody else for my decisions, but I had different influences, you know, because I had never even seen a drunk person before my stepdad. Like, that's how, like, my grandfather sits from Sicily, he drank wine, you know, and I guess he probably got drunk, you know, like, looking back on it now, but I never saw, like, the fall down sloppy drunk that I became, you know, and like that my stepfather was. So, you know, I think that, you know, this country as a whole needs to, like, especially out here in the suburbs, needs to talk about their story, because if they don't, they don't know. And if you don't know, you can't change it or help them.
That too, I think if people hear more success stories, you'll get more people to stop with the stigmatizing things, or people who do have different opinions. A lot of people really, they only see it or hear about it. It really hasn't affected their family yet. You know what I mean? And I let those same people know, like, and before, it was those same people who came back to me later and said, "Yeah, Morris, it is in my family. I didn't know." You know, and I, again, like, I'm not the type to be like, "I told you so." You know, inside, you know, you're like, you know, you want to be like, "Told you," but you know, it's like, all right, well, how can I help you now? You know what I mean? And trying to help them, and then they feel embarrassed because it's in their family,
or it's them.
Think of even, like, you know, not even just heroin, alcoholism, different
Alcoholism is a bigger problem in this country than the opioid epidemic.
exactly.
But
Yes,
it's looked over.
it's more accepted because drinking is legal in a sense.
Yeah,
You know
there's
what I
like
mean?
86,000 alcohol related deaths a year and 54,000 opioid, which is both those numbers are way out of control.
Way out of control. So
But it's
even
just
the alcoholism is the same. So you think of how many people who really don't know that somebody in their family is struggling.
most alcoholics like hid in their closet and drank,
Yeah.
Or it was just hushed, or there's just a lot of different.
But the struggle's real.
Yeah, it was in the vodka was in their water bottle.
Yeah.
At the soccer meet,
Yeah.
watching your kid in the tournament.
Right.
Just
And you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing like when it comes to domestic violence. Same thing when it comes with the different pains that people are facing, like cancer. Some people just don't talk about it or don't let people know, or it's hidden to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
you don't know until it's too late. Until somebody
until
falls down drunk, shows up with a black eye, or is put in the ICU, stage 4 cancer, or they're on heroin. It's not pills anymore. Like that's when people start talking. So maybe it should be a little bit before that, when somebody's falling asleep on the couch a little bit too easily, or yeah. or just like not feeling well, But I mean, I have a million opinions on it, and I respect other people's opinions that don't agree with me, but
Well, me
I
too.
think my opinion.
It's hard. Like a lot of people disagree with me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever see the arguments that I had to deal with on when I post some things, but I think it's funny, and also at the same time it gets people to talk. So,
I've been called a disgrace to my field.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got somebody who didn't friend request me because I said that I didn't correct somebody who mentioned something about Donald Trump before on a post. And they said, "You're going to let that person say this?" And I was like, people are entitled to their own opinions. And the person, wasn't my friend anymore. So,
oh, well.
So, people have their opinions. Basically, people have their opinions. They can have them. I think having an opinion about it just starts a conversation. And that's the goal, is to have a conversation about it, get it going, get more people to talk about it. You know what I mean? The more people that talk about it, the better, we'll come up with these better solutions than a safe injection site.
Right.
Or, harm reduction site, whatever. But obviously it's good. But again, like alcoholism, the meth, cocaine, all those things are just as more important too as heroin is, and it's big. I think Bucks County District Attorney did a report, or somebody did a report, that cocaine is coming back. Cocaine's not going to come back. Again, crack never left. Crack is, tearing up in the same areas that the heroin is tearing up, and cocaine's coming back. All kind of different stuff's coming back. But also too, what time we got?
7:20.
7:20. Okay, so that was actually a good conversation. Thank you. I don't have no more questions, but I definitely want to clear up some things from the last show. I made some errors, but
Shocking.
right. I made some errors on my mission statement. It was kind of our first show. I was kind of all into it, and then, my producer Jack started asking me some questions, so I kind of quickly went through. But my mission statement is: it is our mission to bring education, awareness, understanding, and a positive outlook to those who may need us. You know what I mean? So I got the mission statement right this time. So also too, I got the Homie Claus event coming up soon. Well, it's in December, but we are starting to collect donations now. Toiletry items, toothpaste, soap, mouthwash, floss, things like that. Blankets, hats, gloves, hand warmers. The jackets or coats are good, but I'll get so many of them that by the time my event's over, I got so many of them. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? So they're good, but whatever. But I'll take coats. I'll take anything.
Yeah, we can store them.
We definitely got a store spot. I got your place. Big shout out to Jimmy John's. She's a part of Jimmy John's. So They definitely are supporting us, help us out. So we got a spot with you guys there. I got a spot with the Drummonds over here in Langhorne and different things too. Also, too, I want to clear up too. When I speak about No More Pain, I gotta definitely speak about Abby Anderson. When I did start No More Pain, I made a post about. I talked about how my cousin was like, "Oh, you need to go out, do this, put it on Facebook, get support." So I had made a post about it, and Abby Anderson was the only person that showed up. And I remember telling her about this vision of mine, and she was like all on board with it. You know what I mean? So she kind of helped me start No More Pain. She was my vice president. I kind of like owe it to her to like really she was my support system to start it. So I got to give a big shout out to Abby Anderson. I meant to mention her last week, but me and her were able to get No More Pain established on her 501c3 and things like that. So she ended up leaving No More Pain to start Salvation of Sorrows, which does haircuts. So I would never been able to do No More Pain without Abby Anderson. Definitely. So big shout out to her, but definitely check out Salvation of Sorrows. There's a lot of different organizations that are out there doing different things. Never Give Up.
Beacon of Hope.
Beacon of Hope. They're really good. AIM is good. That's Angels in Motion.
Yeah.
Beacon of Hope, they can have a walk soon, right?
Yeah, I was actually just reading an email about it. I think it's
So
September.
you got 29th. The ProAct in Bristol. So there are different organizations that No More Pain that are out there doing these things. I meet different organizations when I'm out in the city who are handing out food and things, so it's good to network with them. So there are people out there trying to make a difference, helping the homeless, Blanket Angels. There's just so many. The list could go on. So you definitely want to give a shout out to them. And before we end this show, again, look out stay on post on the No More Pain page. I'm definitely going to post more on it so people get involved. We're still working on the website. The website will be up in probably another month. Give me, please, which will be more information. Our next show we'll probably go in more detail about different things that's going on. Definitely want to touch base on the racism, and things like that's going on. It's definitely about things that matter. These are my opinions. But I definitely wanted to say a few things while I end. Just so, it's almost kind of like I write poetry, and I'm in the middle of writing finishing a book called My Life, My Story, My Life. So basically a lot of things that we talk about is going to be in this book. And it's just more to give people definitely a better view of what the things I see, whether it be Philadelphia, Bucks County, and just letting people know, But I like to write quotes, so I'm just gonna, just say this to everybody, just take it, for what it's worth, Every day we are seeing how heroin addiction is destroying lives and families. We often don't think it can happen to us until it's too late. Heroin addiction by far is leading in overdose deaths in our country, and the sad truth is that the epidemic is far from over, and more people are going to die. We must stay informed, educated, and fight back. Yes, there's a war going on and we are losing it. Heroin addiction has brought more people together in death than in recovery. Someone's mother, father, son, daughter, friend, aunt, uncle, or loved one will die tonight from a heroin overdose, and I'm not okay with that. I'm rooting for those that are in addiction. I really do root for those people who are suffering. I truly believe that you can recover. I got a success story sitting in front of me. But until that time, and beyond that time, I'm even with you still, or with me, even though I haven't, done things, since I was 17, but even with you, I still root for people like you. I met a guy who had 22 years clean, and I'm like, yo, man, I'm rooting for you. because you can lose it like that. You know, I could be Mars, like I said before, I could be Mars No More Pain guy today, and tomorrow I could be Mars the No More Pain guy who's a heroin addict and I lost it all. You know, and I tell people, like, I'm rooting for you. Like, I'm on that sideline cheering you on. You know, I always put these picture quotes. I'm on the sideline cheering people on, not because I feel like, you know, not just because they got it, you know, because I believe that, you know, if you believe in yourself, I'm right there with you. You know what I mean? And way after you believe in yourself, I'm still there rooting for you. Like, you know, for example, you know, and there's a lot of people I know, but also too, like, all these shows that we do are dedicated to the people we lose. You know, you didn't go to the Red Rose Petal Ceremony, right? Red Rose Petal Ceremony that we talked about. I read off 140 names. Well, we read off 140 names. And since the last show, I've been thinking about it. Like, you know, how can, you know, I continue to remember these people? And what are a better way than to be able to talk about them? You know what I mean? So, start next show. I'm going to dedicate each show, each day to a different person. Obviously get family's permission, things like that. And so I can talk about people's lives, you know what I mean? And though they're not here with us, they were somebody's loved one. They have a story. And if we can remember, you know, I always tell people, let the reason why somebody died be the reason why you lived. You know, what better way, you know what I mean, to always remember them. And that's why I try to do it the Red Rose Petal Ceremony. Is that right there? So again, man, I do this only to inspire others, you know, to get involved in things that matter. Stay tuned. Again, if you want to reach me, my phone number is 215-416-5248. You can find me on Facebook under Mars Derry, our No More Pain page. Instagram, I don't know why anybody wants to find me on Instagram, but it's Mars_Derry. I gave out my email. No, I didn't. My email is no more pain, inc215@gmail.com, man. Anybody needs to talk, anybody needs assistance, anybody needs help, guidance, whatever. Let me know if you have questions for the next show, which we're taping 2 weeks from tonight. Please let me know. I'm sorry my Facebook Live kept cutting in and out. I don't know, I guess we got a bad reception there. But it kept cutting in and out. But listen to my podcast. Listen to this podcast. Listen to the show. Let's get involved in things that matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
For being a part of this. Thank you, my producer. And again, guys, God bless y'all. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.